Get started, Mr. Jenkins. She's spearheaded a lot of training as it relates to the CIT team, as far as being able to assist in mental illness, domestic violence, and everything, and not only in the city of Jackson, but in Hinds County and throughout the state of Mississippi. And I think that we need to give her a hand. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask Ms. Clark if she'd like to make just a quick statement or anything that relates to the CIT team or handling of the mental illness become the mentally ill, because she really has spearheaded this for the entire state of Mississippi. And I'd like to extend that courtesy to her.
Thank you. I apologize for being a little late. It was kind of hard to find a park out there. And I think all of you probably can hear me. I got this big mouth. But I just want to thank you all for the consideration you've given. Because if you don't have somebody in your family who has that problem, you will. It does not discriminate. But we need to try and help those individuals. And I just want to thank the county, and especially Ms. Carr, for her help with that bill that we did to try to get that through. It's been working well. The police have been working well with us. It's just been a blessing to so many of my constituents. Now, I don't need to talk about the elevator now, do I? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins, if you would, just go ahead and give us an update, please, as it relates to the restoration project.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Andrew Jenkins with AJ Management. We're the construction monitors and managers for the Hinds County Detention Center, Part C. To date, the smoke control system evaluation is complete. The demolition of the existing counters is complete. The gypsum board demo has been completed. Security ceilings demo has been completed. HVAC grills has been completed. Plumbing has been completed. Ongoing work is electrical work. The framing of security ceilings is ongoing. The control room structural seat steel is on site, and we have started erecting it. The demolition of the control doors ongoing, and the demolition of the existing doors ongoing. And we are, in fact, also obtaining quotes to patch the ceiling leaks, the roof leaks that's ongoing. Was not part of the civil disturbance, but it's an ongoing problem. So we actually are going ahead and obtaining some quotes for your considerations to patch those leaks.
Okay. Any issues that we have not discussed previously as it relates to the restoration, or anything, or that we might need to know that might be an issue that we can discuss in public?
The roof leaks, I'm sure you all were already aware of the roof leaks. As I said, it had nothing to do with the disturbance. However, if the leaks are not repaired, it's going to have an adverse effect on the renovation that we are currently doing, because the ceiling would possibly obtain moisture and result in potential mold and stuff like that if you don't go in and repair the leaks that's already there. As again, I say again, it has nothing to do with the disturbance. It's an ongoing problem. The boots around the intrusions through the roof, the vent pipes and what have you, they're simply deteriorating. And water, every time it rains, water just comes in through those boots and some of the elastic material that's in the corners and what have you.
Okay.
So it's something that has to be done, but as I say again, has nothing to do with disturbance.
Okay. Questions from the board, Mrs. Calhoun?
Yes, Mr. Jenkins, the existing cell door locks, what are we doing to secure those doors? Early on, we had attempted a retrofitting process, and so I don't know. That's my question.
Yes, ma'am. They'll be completely removed and replaced with state-of-the-art locking systems.
Very, very good.
Okay. Mr. Stokes?
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins,
Yes, sir.
in terms of completion time, when would this project be complete?
The schedule projects that it's an October 4th completion. However, we're doing everything we can. Contractors working with us to expedite that and find ways to cut days off the schedule as they see fit. And we are monitoring that. And as I said earlier, the contractor is very aggressive in trying to expedite this project.
Now, this on the Part C.
Yes, sir.
But will you have recommendations made for the roof that you feel need to be repaired?
We will have recommendations for the roof repairs on Part C. We're not involved in the other parts, but we will have a recommendation for repairs to the roof on Part C.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the board? No other questions, Mr. Jenkins, we really appreciate it, and just continue to give us an update. You need to come back in front of the board if you find anything substantial enough where we need to know. Just work like you have been through the county administrator.
Yes.
And you are providing a written copy to the county administrator?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now continue with our agenda. We'll now go to the approval of, the claims.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. Last week, the Chancery Clerk's Office provided you with the claims information for today's meeting. The first item in that information was a schedule of an interfund advance to be repaid. This is repaid to the General County Fund from Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance Grant number 20.205, your highway planning grants. The original advance was made at the last meeting for $200,000, and we're repaying that at this time.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor of? Aye. Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The next item in the package is a schedule of an interfund transfer. This is a transfer to Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance Grant number 20.205. This is from the Series 2007A Tax Exempt Bond Fund in the amount of $46,523.08. This is a match so far for the payments made for the contractor for the Byram Swinging Bridge project.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So,
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to?
Not voting, Mr. President.
One not voting. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The next item is also a schedule of an interfund transfer. This is a transfer to the General County Fund from Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance Grant number 16.738, which is your JAG and JET grants. At the end of last fiscal year, when we had anticipated that this grant had ended, we had you approve a transfer of some $12,000 of expenses that we had anticipated would not be reimbursed. We were wrong. Evidently, they were reimbursed. The check was lost, and while the auditors were here, they found it in their information that they get from the state that we had been issued this check but never cashed it. Therefore, they reissued the check to us. So we would like to transfer that money to cover that previous transfer back to the general fund. And it is in the amount of $13,668.69.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank
Question,
you.
Mr. President.
Question for Mr. Stokes?
Now, Ms. Carr, the check that was lost, did it ever reappear? Never did find it.
We never see.
So we don't have to worry about this check coming back.
No, sir, we're good.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much. The next item in your packet is a special claim. This is a special claim from Malachi Financial Products. It is over $100,000 this morning. It is for $105,400, and this is for professional services rendered for the study of the sustainability of the Byram Clinton corridor.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly second. Discussion, Mrs. Calhoun.
yes, sir. I have some concerns regarding the Byram Clinton feasibility study as has been documented. Over 50% of the information printed in the study consists of documents from the Central Mississippi Planning Development District, and other documented sources include the Hinds County GIS database, Mississippi Department of Transportation and the 2010 census. The information, and I wish I had it because I would pass it out to the audience and I forgot to bring it. But the information that's printed in that document was simply repackaged as work done by the contractor for the study. In reading the information, there were errors concerning the description of the program and also the amount of funding received from the federal government for the project. The study lists only receiving $125 million from the federal government, whereas we have received over $30 million from the federal government. And what I'm concerned most about is the contractor based all of his assumption on the premises that Hinds County would not be providing improved infrastructure such as wastewater disposal, collection, and treatment, likewise water. The study was based only on the fact that a road would be built. And if I had the information, I would quote what the writer said about what his assumptions were based upon. But after receiving phase 1 of the feasibility study and reading it, knowing that most of the, and as a matter of fact, Hinds County paid some board members voted to pay $66,000 for phase 1 of the study. Included again in phase 1 of the study was simply information that was taken from the 2010 census, again from the Hinds County GIS database, also information that came from the web page. Any Hinds County employee could have compiled and gathered that information off of the internet and off of what Hinds County has on our database, and also copied the information from the 2010 census. But some board members voted to pay $66,000 for information that already pre-existed. My third concern is communities impacted by the formula have not been involved in the initial stage of this process. If you're going to do a study, you must involve the citizenry for their feedback input. I would think that before doing anything, that the contractor at least would have conducted some community meetings. It is in my opinion that the current information provided in both phase 1 and phase 2 of the draft does not address the economic impact of future projections of the environmental. The information as documented or presented has very little information in it to help this board to determine the economic impact of the corridor. So what I'm saying this morning is that I will not vote for what has been presented to us until such time we receive a quality product. Now, we had, when phase 1 was presented to the board, in the meeting that I was in, they asked for our input. One of the things that I specifically discussed with the contractor was the fact that we are going to provide utilities, meaning water and sewer disposal. I also directed the contractor to talk with our engineers, that's Wagner and IMS, to actually see or talk with them concerning the 4 alternatives that were recommended to the Hinds County Board of Supervisors for the site location of constructing a wastewater facility. Directed them to go to the engineers. Also told the contractor that we were looking at a possible 5th alternative. And again, information concerning those alternatives could be could have been acquired from our contractors and our engineers rather. However, the Malachi group failed to even consult with our engineers. So again, my vote will only come in favor when we receive a quality product, something that we can actually use. The current information, even though it's documented from the 2010 census, again, does not represent information pertinent to economic impact or the growth and development of the community.
Okay. All those in favor of? Aye. Opposed to?
No.
Motion fails. Mr. Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I feel with this property that maybe it is time that we include the state auditor, the attorney general's office, and the feds. Because, I hear so many different stories about the property. I've heard everybody say we're going to have hotels. I haven't seen any of that. I know that we're taking bond money that was scheduled for something else and shifting it over there. Why are we spending so much money? And then they talking about $66,000 for a study, and we paying hundreds of thousands for right-of-way. We got all these problems in this county, and we throwing money after money. So, yes, I'm going to write a letter. I think you might be right. Let's try to bring somebody in, and let's look at what's really going on with this, and why we throwing so much money down the dark hole. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mrs. Kaplan, then we'll move on.
Yes, Mr. Stokes, I would agree with you on bringing the auditors in.
Well, we want to bring everybody. There's no two auditors. Let's bring, because the auditor can't do nothing but recommend to Attorney General. So let's bring everybody in here and let's really get to the bottom of what's going on.
I'm glad to do so. We can give an accounting as to how the money has been spent. Back in, I forget, I won't say the year, but we spent about, I wish I had to, anyway, we spent a couple million doing the Bolton Road interchange. So that project was completed from some of the funding. On the southern end, we spent some millions.
Mr. President, I don't need to know that. They don't tell the federal people and everybody else, and they give us a written report. I'll be satisfied, but I haven't seen a hotel yet. And they, in my understanding, this got started with some man selling another man some property. We're going to be a hotels and everything else. I haven't heard of anything being developed for the road, and that's what they're saying. So, I don't need to hear, Mr. President. We can move the agenda.
Okay. We'll move on.
Let me just mention one other thing. We cannot put anything on the board until it gets built.
But you have the plans. You already have the plans. Even if you don't put it on there, you have the plan. Once this complete, this go in there. We don't have any of that.
Okay. Ready to continue? I think we need a vote. Is that correct? Well, we've already voted. Go ahead, continue, please.
The next item was another special claim. However, we have not received all the paperwork for that, so we're moving on. We have some claims left over from the last 2 dockets. The first of those is claim number 3,510. It is over $100,000. This is to Motorola Solutions Credit. This was on your April 15 docket.
Okay. Pleasure report. Is it for $723,000?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I would ask the board, of course it's completely open to the board, that we hold this for one more cycle I've discussed and talked with the individuals and the vice president from Motorola Inc., and we have not incurred any additional charges or fees as it relates to this, and they have advised us that we will have to pay it about the next pay cycle, and they would recommend that we do it at our meeting in July once they've discussed with other individuals as to what we need to do as it relates to this particular payment. Motorola has decided that they want to work with Hinds County, and they're currently talking with, at least they've talked with me about some of the things that they would like to do, and but it's the board's decision if you want to go ahead and pay it now, or if you want to wait until one more cycle to allow us to complete negotiation with what with Motorola to determine exactly what they want us to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Fisher.
I think we need to go ahead and pay this today. The issue is we have a $723,500 debt that was due March 15th. It's now approaching, it's approaching 70 days overdue. And upon the request of an outside party from the county, not the Board of Supervisors, they have, the county hasn't paid this. I've talked to Motorola also. They've talked to Bank of America as late as Friday afternoon, 2 o'clock, where they've talked about this extension time. But this whole thing of negotiation on the payment is a totally different issue. We're in arrears here. They're not going to negotiate $723,500 payment on money we already owe. We have to pay that money, period. Whether you wait till next month or you pay it this month, you got to write a check for $723,500 and be very grateful that they're not charging us what they would anybody else, which is the penalties and fees for a payment nearly 90 days overdue. So I see no reason to wait. I see no value in waiting. They can't renegotiate. They will not renegotiate this, even if they could, because it's already late. Now, next year they might do something, but this year they're not going to do anything. So I think that we waste time and, frankly, show bad faith by not willingly paying the bills that we already owe.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I would move that we pay this bill.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. We will continue what's on the next agenda. Continue, please.
Thank you very much. The next claim is also from the April 15 docket. It is also over $100,000. It is claim number 3,560 to the city of Byron.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to?
No.
No. Motion fails. Continue, please.
Thank you very much. The next claim is from the May 6 docket. It is claim number 3,914 to Airwave Consulting Company.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
No.
Motion fails. Continue,
Thank you
please.
very much. The next claim is also from the May 6 docket. It is claim number 3,961, specifically check number 328196. After speaking with the sheriff's office, this was a reimbursement for one of their employees who had purchased some items without a purchase order. So at this time, we would ask that you reject this claim. And then once the information that we needed as far as what was purchased has been received, we will send that to the purchasing department to bring it back to you for a court order to remit payment to the employee.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly seconded. Question from Mr. Stokes.
Now, you want us to vote to turn it down,
Correct.
then the correct procedure and get the money to the person.
Correct.
Okay.
We're still waiting on the information from the sheriff's office as to what they actually purchased, which is part of the issue at this point, because the claim just has an on deposit receipt, and it doesn't show that what they actually purchased. So that's the main issue here, is that there's no itemized listing of what was actually bought.
Sorry, I've seen this with Mr. Lewis' office.
Mr. Lewis's office will bring this back to you for the court order.
Now, we want to make sure that someone who did nothing intentionally wrong is punished. So,
Correct.
I think when this happened before, you say we turn it down.
Correct.
There's any problem, we go to the court and make sure the court gives us to pay order and then people pay.
And once everything is corrected, that's what Mr. Lewis will do, will bring it back to us so that we can.
All right, thank you.
We just want to make sure that it was properly
Keep us out of jail.
and what it was.
Keep us out of jail.
Yes, sir.
That's part of our responsibility.
All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Kelly.
Supervisor Stokes had called for an investigation from the state auditor's office concerning environmental corridors expenditures. And even though the item was not on the agenda, the discussion came up in the claims portion of this meeting. Would it be appropriate, Mr. Attorney, if a motion was made to request the auditors to conduct?
Mr. President,
Mr. Stokes.
I've been in government a long time. I know how to talk to the auditors, so I know how to talk to the feds and everybody else. So when I get ready for the investigation to take place, I know how to contact them.
Okay.
And that's what I would do.
Okay, thank you.
Continue, Mrs.
Thank you very much. Your claims this morning are claim numbers 3,962 through 4,186. The first claims of interest this morning are claim numbers 3,967 and 3,968. These are the utilities for the Mississippi Valley Title Building.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in
Question, Mr. President.
Mr. Stokes.
In terms of this building, and I know we legal might need to guide us, have we officially entered to a contract to sell it?
Yes, authority was given at the last board meeting to authorize the president to execute that contract, and the contract has been presented. Offer's been made. We're wrapping up some finalities with regard to the appraisal and evaluation, but other than that, that approval's been given.
When will the contract come back for
It can be presented to you again at during the next executive session.
Now, with the check being hand in?
Probably not. I don't think it would be.
Well,
The closing would not have taken place by then. In fact, the closing would not be scheduled until probably sometime in the fall.
these utilities that we're paying, if we had sold the building, what should be our responsibility?
The closing has not taken place yet, so it's still certainly in our hands. And until the closing takes place, then it would be our responsibility.
Well, could we not contact, I think, water department, these other people that cut us off?
You certainly, well, unless there's something else that I'm not familiar with, I don't see why you couldn't.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of?
This is on the
Utility.
utilities for more.
Correct. For Mississippi Title Building.
Opposed to?
Not vote, Mr. President.
One not voting. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The next claim of interest is claim number 4,013 and 4,072. These are to AT&T. They total $1,933.08. This is telephone and long distance for 911 and other county departments.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The next claim of interest is claim number 4,186, specifically check number 328432. This is travel for County Administrator Carmen Davis to the Minority Caucus.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Continue, please.
Thank you very much. The next claim of interest is claim number $1,965. It is over $100,000. It is to United Healthcare JP Morgan Chase in the amount of $496,981.67. This is health insurance for county employees and retirees.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Your claims over $100,000 this morning are claim numbers 3,986 to Trustmark National Bank in the amount of $137,589.38. This is for your Series 2010 bond issue. Claim number 4014 is to Hinds Behavioral Health Services for $284,000 even. This is administrative services for the Mental Health Commission. Claim number 4025 is to Jackson Hinds Library System in the amount of $132,850. This is their May allotment. Claim number 4,180 is to Quality Choice Correction in the amount of $179,833.33. This is your April medical services for your inmates. And 4,182 is to White Construction Company in the amount of $168,376.84. This is applications number 5 and 6 for Pod C Design.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to?
Moved.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The final item in your packet last week was your grant claims. They do appear to be in order. Your regular claims are claim numbers 3,962 through 4,186, less claim numbers 3,965, 3,967 and 68, 3,986, 4,014, 4,025, 4,180, 4,192, and 4,186, specifically check number 328432. We present the remaining claims for your approval at this time.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We have the order approving the claims portion of the minutes for today, Monday, May 20, 2013, for your approval.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll continue our printed agenda with the Honorable Ms. Peggy Calhoun, District Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning I have, as my first item, a request to use 6 voting machines to conduct an election for the Mr. and Miss Jim Hill School contest.
Okay.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Yes, my second item, again this morning, I have listed on the agenda, request funding for an upgrade and modernization of the elevators in the circuit court building, the circuit courthouse. Last Wednesday and last Thursday, all day, both elevators were not working in the circuit court building. As a matter of fact, I was leaving a little after 5, and I ran into Representative Alice Clark, who was coming in as the guest speaker for the drug court program. And the program took place on the second floor of the courthouse. I admire Representative Alice Clark for her courageousness and her courage and her strength, because she went up the stairs with her cane. I literally, I insisted that one of the female deputies escort her up the stairs, but she was determined that she would go. Anyway, she made it up the stairs. And I don't know what condition she was in after she got up through the second flight, but if it had been me, I would have been huffing and puffing and blowing because somebody would have stood to check this. But anyway, Again, the elevators are frequently out of order, and it is not fair to the citizens that come and go through that courthouse to not be able to use the elevators. On last year, the elevators were out of order frequently. And generally when they're out, it averages a week before they can be repaired. And it's because the elevators work on a dual system. And oftentimes, because they're so old, that the person that's repairing, Dixie that's repairing the elevator has to order the parts, so the elevators are out. I have received several calls to my office, and one of the calls was from Miss Banks. I don't know if she's here this morning, but she had said that she would love to come, if she can, she would come before this board to encourage the board members to vote to get the elevators upgraded and repaired. So my motion this morning is to, I had asked Mr. Griffith to bring me a letter that I received from, a memo that I received from the president regarding speaking with Dixie Elevators, the company that repairs the elevators. And I have a lot of questions regarding the information that's listed here concerning the elevators. If it becomes necessary. Well, I think you need, because I'm going to make a motion regarding the information here. The president writes, after speaking with Tony, a technician from Dixie Elevators assigned to the Hinds County Courthouse, he requested that we ask security to no longer allow Mr. Dwayne Davis and Ken Crawford back in the building. Both of these gentlemen were employed with the company that previously maintained the maintenance on the elevators in the Hinds County Courthouse. Tony, who works for Dixie Elevators, the company that presently maintains our service columns, says he has evidence that Mr. Davis entered the Hinds County Courthouse under false pretense, stating that he needed to inspect the elevators. While there, he turned off the power to the elevators. The power was restored the next day after the present technician with Dixie Elevators discovered what had happened. Lastly, Tony, the present tech, said the elevators do not need to be replaced. They work on a coil system, and once a coil once the coil is being replaced, the elevators will work just fine. One elevator is currently down, waiting 5 coils that will be replaced on Monday. My concern is this. If there's evidence that someone has tried to sabotage the elevators, then we should call for an investigation. Secondly, if the company has evidence that someone came in and attempted to sabotage the elevators, my question is, why hasn't an affidavit been filed against that employee that was supposed to terminate? Because there's another memo that I don't have with me. But if all the problem is concerning, if the problem is concerning a coil system, why hasn't that problem been resolved if that is all that is wrong with the elevators? Because I'm working at that building. And as I said, I can personally attest to the fact that the elevators are out frequently. whether it's 6 times or 10 times. I know it's been 10 times since the first of the year. Whether it's 6 or 10, that's too frequent for those elevators to be out. We're here to, we are the service organization for our citizens for Hinds County government. And we should be here providing that service to our citizenry. After all, they pay us to maintain the buildings around here.
Mr. Fisher, then Mr. Stokes.
Mr. Harrington, could you come up and comment on this? We talked about this the last meeting, and you walked up to it at one point, even used the word emergency. But first off, I'd like to know, is there evidence of people? Is there evidence of people tampering with the elevator? If so, then we need to initiate some sort of investigation. Secondly, this issue about the coils, does that fix everything? And then third, based on your answers that you give us, what is your assessment of the elevators now?
Okay. Good morning, Mr. President, Board of Supervisors. We have not received anything, affidavit, nothing in writing coming from the owner of Dixie Elevator concerning anybody's sabotaging or trying to affect the elevators at certain courthouse. I've heard hearsay, but I've asked for something in writing and have not received anything in writing concerning the individual that's in question. The particular day that they're talking about, where the individual came in, the person who used to work with the company came in, he was on jury duty during that particular day. As we all know today, we're still down on the elevator. We was down with the elevators on the last board meeting. And come to this board meeting again, we're still having issues with the elevator. We did have a modernization evaluation done on the elevators by Scott Woods and Associates. And they informed us that the whole elevator don't need to be replaced, but it does need a modernization upgrade to the elevators in order for them to work correctly. I did receive a report from the ADA that it does not fall in the ADA compliance at this time. I did receive that report, and it does not fall within the ADA compliance at this time. We are.
Just 1 second. Go ahead and stay here. A comment as relates to what Mr. Fisher
Yes, sir. I just wanted to add one thing as related to the concern of sabotaging equipment. Even though Mr. Harrington did say it was hearsay, we haven't received anything in writing from the company regarding that issue. We have taken precautions by locking the control doors to the elevator mechanisms to ensure that no one can have ready access to the equipment. So I want to make sure you're aware that we have taken some precaution based on some concerns.
Well, just to follow on that, and then who would have legal jurisdiction in that building? The sheriff's department or the Jackson Police Department?
Sheriff.
Sheriff is here. Perhaps it's something we need to look into to clear the air, one way or the other.
Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Davis, I think at the last meeting, I requested, and we didn't do a vote, that we try to find some money. Now, we got the report after the meeting, last meeting date, and I think the issue that I was looking at is the $200,000, and I didn't support taking the money from Justice Court. Now, in terms of whether or not the elevators need to be fixed, I brought that to Ms. Davis' attention over a year ago because the whole courthouse needs some attention. We need a bond, I thought, and we'd do it comprehensively, but have you identified any money to pay for these elevators repair?
If the board choose to do so, we will have funds through the bond funds, as you mentioned. We also have funds through our surplus funds as well as the reserve funds.
Okay. Now, when we say reserve, now we're not talking about the reserve when they go.
A super majority.
You're talking about touching that money?
I'm just giving you the funding option.
Well, let's do this, because could you, like you normally would do, give us a memo,
Yes, sir.
suggestion of what we would do. And I think that's the issue more than anything else, where the money gonna come from. And that's what I said last meeting. I support people being able to use the elevator. I've been stuck on the elevator before. It's no fun. And it's surely no fun going up and down those stairs. But the money is the issue as to where we're gonna get it from to fund this. And that's my only concern. And, you know, again, I didn't receive the paperwork at the last meeting about this money, and I think all members should come to all board members. So again, my delay is going to be where the money will come from. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll go one more time around, and then we'll do the vote or move on from this particular issue. Mrs. Calhoun?
Yes, sir. I asked the ADA coordinator to be here this morning and to discuss the compliance issue.
Good morning. On last week, I did a compliance report as it relates to the elevators. Basically, for the most part,
Yes, she wants you to be here.
oh, Tanika Moore. The elevators are in majority compliance. When I checked the elevators, they were working. I'm not sure what happened between the time that I actually did the evaluations and what happened as of last week. The major issue with the elevators that I saw were there are no audible signals to let anybody know whether which floor they're on, if they're going up or down, which elevator is actually available at the time. There was also an issue with the doors when the doors close. If there's something, an objective inside that comes into the elevator, there's no way, the elevator actually has to hit the person before it opens again, and it actually has to push some kind of pressure on it. So that was two of the main issues that I saw with the elevators.
Let me just ask one quick question. Isn't it true that the elevators could not be in compliance because the building was erected before the ADA was ever signed?
Well, actually, there's no grandfather clause to ADA.
Right, I know that, but the building was already there before the ADA was signed in 1990.
Right.
So the building was already, so there's no way that the building could be in compliance because the signing only came afterwards. But I just want to check and make sure that. Thank you very much. Okay?
Mr. President?
Yes.
That's one reason that we called for a upgrade and a modernization of the elevators. Let me say, I talked with some of the justice court judges on last week. And their only concern is that the existing courtroom needs to be upgraded, and there are some maintenance issues that they have concern about. And one justice court judge says that they do need some additional space, but the majority of them want the existing courtroom maintained. Also, there is $900,000 in the bond that we had set aside to relocate the Justice Court Department to another building. But when the Justice Court judges looked at the location that we had selected, they were not in agreement to moving out of the Circuit Court building. And they were concerned about also the operation of the Justice Court Clerk Department. They are saying that if we just go in and maintain the existing courtroom, some of them, except for one, then they would be satisfied. There is more than sufficient funds to go in and renovate the existing courtroom. More than sufficient funds. If, and I would be in agreement, if we were to take the money that we already have and transfer those funds to repair the elevators, and after doing an assessment of the needs for the justice court room, then if we need additional funds, then we could again set aside those funds during our budget process. What I'm saying is right now, the elevators need to be repaired.
Okay,
I
prepared to make a motion?
Yes. My motion is to allocate up to $276,300 for the upgrading and modernization of the elevators. And the funds will come from the 310 account. And at a later date, if it becomes necessary, we can replace the funds in the 310 account.
Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Discussion, Mr. President.
Discussion?
Ms. Davis, now the 310 account is going to be that account from the Justice Court bond money.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you remove that money from that account, how you going to replace it?
As mentioned, it will have to be budgeted in our next budget process.
Do we have that much fat that you're looking at coming up in the budget?
We haven't assessed it yet. We still have information. We need to get our information from the tax assessor as far as our anticipated collection for next budget year. We have not gotten that information yet.
Now, do you feel that you would not be able to look and try to identify where some monies could possibly come from versus acting today?
I'm not sure if I understand. Are you speaking within this budget year or next budget year?
Well, it seems like Supervisor Calhoun said this is an emergency need to be this budget year. Now, I'm not supporting taking money from Justice Court. I don't know who all she talked to, but the people in Justice Court I talked to, they already upset. They overcrowded. They bring in a lot of money to the county, but they feel like they are being treated like stepchildren. I'm not going to take that money from them. And I'm not going to vote to take money from the reserve. For a tornado coming here or something coming here, we need to make sure we have money for those situations. Now, if you need time to find us some money, I'll be glad to do it. I'll be glad to give that time. But I'm not taking money from those here. I'm just one vote though.
Mr. President?
Go ahead.
What I'm saying is, if $900,000 and we take $276,000 from 900, that would leave us $600,000. $600,000 is almost enough to build another building.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is, whatever we do to improve the justice court, it's going to take planning, it's going to take time, it's going to take planning. And we we have sufficient time to identify additional funding sources if we need more than, let's say, $600,000. But right now, the elevators need to be upgraded and modernized to accommodate the citizens that go in and out of that facility.
Okay.
I received a lot of the citizens know that I'm located in that building. That's why they call me. And oftentimes, when they call me, I would also ask them to call me on whether they do it or not. I don't know. But we need, the citizens are entitled to have working elevators. Working elevators. And again, when those elevators are out, they are out on an average of a full week.
Okay.
And if we look back at the report that was given to us, the ropes that roll the elevators up and down over 25 years old and at the end of their useful life. The drive machines and cables are the original 50-year-old.
Ms. Councilman, can I just interrupt you at this moment? I know that everything that you say is true. I don't think anyone doubts the fact that the elevators are old and need to be restored or refurbished or even might replaced. We've talked about this now for about 20 minutes. I think it's time to go ahead and vote. Mr. Fisher, I will allow you to go ahead and put your last comment in, but go ahead and vote. All I will say is that I agree with Mr. Stokes. We don't need to take the money from where it does not need to come from. Mr. Fisher, then we'll go ahead and vote.
Is there anybody in the audience that has experience with this in a positive or a negative manner, since this is a public hearing, or public meeting, not a hearing, that has anything they'd like to say in this matter? Yes, ma'am.
We can't do things like that. We can't take things out of order.
Is there public input?
Now, if it comes through the board chair, if anyone wants to talk, then it will come through me, and then I will allow them to come to the board and give their name if they want to make a comment. But we have not allowed public comment in the past, but at your request, we'll do so.
I have a request to do so.
Okay. Well, if that person will come to the front, then we'll handle it from there. If you would like to come to the front and just state your name. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Betty Knight. I have business in the Hinds County Courthouse about 15 to 20 days out of every month.
Okay.
And it's a little scary. At 70 years old, I've had to climb stairs the last few times, and then when I get upstairs, I have to go downstairs. Then the printer is back upstairs, so if I want my judgments, I have to go back up the stairs again. Now, I look like I get around okay, and I do. But if you got an enlarged valve in your heart, by the time you get up those stairs, you can't talk. And besides that, there are people in that courtroom every day who are either on crutches or walkers or have oxygen tanks with them. And then there are some that are older than me, they're 80-something years old. And it's kind of frightening. Friday, one of them didn't work. The doors were just like that, and they had it taped off. One day I tried to get in one because I was having trouble breathing. And about the time I started to walk in, it shut on me. The other one sits there. It sits there to the point when it gets where it's going that you're not really sure if it's going to open or not. It's frightening. It really is. The people in that building are nice people, the deputies, everybody, but that's the scariest part of everything is the elevator.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comment. We'll now talk about this for 20. We'll talk about this for the last 20 or 30 minutes. All those in favor of the motion from Mrs. Calhoun,
Mr. President,
speak by saying aye.
I respectfully request that if there are other members of this ordinance that would like to speak to the elevators, that they do so. I respectfully ask you to allow them to come forward and speak to the issue. These are our citizens.
Ms. Calhoun, I understand that. I understand that.
And they are entitled to speak if they would like to, whether it takes 10 hours.
I understand
if they want to speak, because this board conducts business and we discuss issues more than 20 minutes. We're not restricted to how long we discuss an issue.
Okay.
So again, I respectfully request other individuals to come before this board to speak on their elevators.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Calhoun. All those in favor of? Aye. Opposed to? No. Motion fails. Okay, next issue. We'll now go to Supervisor Donald Phil Fisher from District 4.
Thank you. You know, for the last couple of years, we've had discussions at length about AT&T and the phone bill, and the first one thing and then the other on that bill. And so Mr. Ray has done has started, I call it, on the AT&T phone system. I'd like for maybe, if it's okay with everybody, him to come up and give us a report on that, on what he's done. I think you can honestly say that he has uncovered the tip of the iceberg, not just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's still a long way to go, and there's been a significant amount of money that he's uncovered. So if you would, Ray, if you could cover not only what you've done and the amounts that you've uncovered, but also what your next steps are in this process. And this is just a way, one, to show that there are, government can work and we can be efficient over time with enough pressure for us. But number two, that we are trying to safeguard the taxpayers' dollars and do the right thing with their money. So, if you would, please.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, members.
Good morning.
Don't have in front of you, I think, the audit update that I presented in writing to all of you. And it's like in August of 2012, Hinds County signed an agreement with the Mississippi Department of ITS that had an agreement with AT&T to build government units at a reduced rate for phone service that, under a discount, AT&T allowed them to build us. Prior to going into that, the last 8 AT&T accounts billed to the county was billed for a monthly total of $43,287.48. We're not talking about E911 now, that's a separate bill. After going with the Mississippi State Department of ITS in March 2013 statement for phone service totaled $25,379.39. So there was a savings there from the $43,000. During this time also, the inline was contracted to provide service to 10 county buildings with 100 meg lines, one building with 1,000 meg line, and a 20 meg internet access line. The total monthly cost for these lines from inline was $8,900. Moving to inline increased the meg by 67% to each building and increased the internet meg by 6.7 times for an additional cost of approximately $300 per month over the prior AT&T cost per month, which AT&T cost was $8,613.05. So taking this into account, we're showing a monthly savings to the county of $9,007.19. And then during the process, after receiving the bills from the ITS department from the state, there was several lines, 14 phone lines that we had that was listed as business lines. And what I found out was when it's a business line, it means you do not have to dial that out. Well, we had them changed to the Centrex line where you had to dial that out. And with the cost savings of that, we went from $37.61 for the business line to $11.33 per month for the Centrex line, which was a monthly saving of $946.08. So you take the $9,007.19 and the $946.08. That's a total of $9,953.27 per month, or for a year it would be $119,439. And in the upcoming process, I'm still working, but some lines, like what I call radio lines, I'm going to have AT&T to tag them, find out what the location is, and then find out if they're hot or cold, so if they're not being used, we can cut them off. And that's going to be a problem around $50 or so a line. So it's just taking a little time. I have a stack of paper about this big with the telephone numbers, and I requested from all the departments a list of their phone numbers in their office, and then I'm going to match it against the list that we're being charged for, and if there's numbers that's showing up, then I'll get back with the department and say, where are these lines, how are you using them, and then have AT&T and we'll deduct that. That'll be a savings there.
That's good work. Thank you very much.
Okay. Before you leave, Mr. Brown, I'd just like to commend Supervisor Fisher on this particular issue as well. The Supervisor Stokes, they brought these about 4 or 5 months ago as it relates to AT&T, so I know it's something that's been on their mind for quite some time. Mr. Stokes?
Thank you. Mr. Bryant, yes. know it's wishing. There are 119,000, that you're saying that we can save or we're going to get?
We'll say.
We'll save.
Yes.
Now, how much? And I know that that's money that we've been paying that we should not be paying, and that's where the saving is coming from. And you said you might be able to identify some other lines.
As time goes along, yes.
Okay, in the current budget that we're preparing for, are we making those adjustments in terms of that saving? It's going to be.
Oh, yes.
It's going to be captured.
It'll be captured in next year's budget.
All right, so that means at least $119,000 we'll be able to maybe.
Reallocate.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bryant. Thank you, Supervisor Fisher.
I just want to mention that Ray did mention to me that you know, all this money was being saved, that we might look at his salary.
You know that's coming.
It's never going to be
a portion of it.
I did that to him very sure.
We'll continue with our printed agenda. We'll now go to the Honorable Supervisor Kenny Stokes, Vice President.
Mr. President, I would like to start with item number 7, the resolution recognizing Memorial Day. On this Sunday, this country, Monday, we'll celebrate Memorial Day, but on Sunday, we're going to have an activity at Battlefield Park where we have live music and fun. We're inviting everyone to come out. Memorial Day is special, especially to people who have served in the military. But a lot of times you think about those who may have died or passed in the war trying to protect this country. United States. Clerk, if you, Ms. Cox, should read the resolution in the minutes, please.
Yes, sir. Good morning again, Mr. President, members of the board. Resolutions of Hinds County Board of Supervisors in honor of Memorial Day. Whereas the preservation of basic freedoms and world peace has always been a valued objective of this great country. Whereas thousands of American men and women have selflessly given their lives in service as peacemakers and peacekeepers. Whereas greater strides should be made to demonstrate the appreciation and gratitude of these loyal Americans deserve and to commemorate the ultimate sacrifice they made. Whereas Memorial Day is the day of the year for the nation to appropriately remember American heroes by inviting the citizens of this nation to respectfully honor them at a designated time. Whereas Memorial Day needs to be made relevant to both present and future generations of Americans. And whereas a national moment of remembrance will provide citizens in the United States an opportunity to participate in a symbolic act of American unity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Hinds County, Mississippi, by and through its Board of Supervisors, does hereby honor Memorial Day. So resolved and honored this the 20th day of March, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr.
Stokes, before you move on, I'd like to take a moment of privilege to do one other thing as it relates to Memorial Day. I would like to ask any member of the audience or of this board that's ever served in any war, whether it's a war past or still presently in the armed services, to please stand where we can recognize you and give a hand. Any war, any military person. Thank you very much. I had no idea, Mr. Reed. So you now know when you never know till you never know. Thank you very much. Mr. Stokes, continue.
Mr. President, the issue of Memorial Day, Mr. President, is one that we take for granted a lot of times. And I was looking at the news earlier this morning in Pearl Harbor. I think it was a ship that sunk. And a few of the sailors survived, and some of them still there in it. And they said some of them, they said some of those that survived, they get their bodies cremated so they can join their crew back. You know, it's something that a lot of people need to really pay close attention to, because a lot of people gave their lives up for us to have the freedoms we have. I had a brother in the Navy, and I used to go to Jacksonville, Florida, see some field, the USA Jack, and you know, it's something to really experience, and that's why this week it's going to be the first time we really did a celebration for Memorial Day. We're live at the time at Battlefield Park. We ask everyone to please come out. And we're going to start at 1 o'clock this Sunday, and we know everything is closed on Monday. So come out and enjoy yourself. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, continue, please.
Mr. President, I asked someone to come from charter schools, and I think Mr. Fuller can tell us, I think, Mr. Fuller, would you come up and explain to us what we have with the charter school, please? And the reason we asked, Mr. President, because there's a lot of discussion about charter schools, and I think it's important that we know firsthand what's going to take place, when it's going to take place, so we'll be fully apprised of what's going to happen.
Okay.
Henry Fuller, Hinds County, District 5. We contacted Superintendent Broom's office in reference to representation today. This week there will be a conference for the statewide superintendent conference. So this time they were not able to assist us, but we will invite them back.
What we'll do is hold Mr. President and try to make sure we have some people from those areas to come. And if there's any question the board have, I'd like to send it to them so when they come they can answer any question concerning charter school.
Okay, continue.
Legislation. Mr. President, the next item was the new voting machines, and I thought we had someone here. I don't know if
We have them.
Okay, please. Y'all come forward. It was a chance, Mr. President, the election that we had a few weeks ago to kind of see how the new voting machines will work. And we always want to, get an idea of the quality of the work. I think the machines as a whole was not that big of a problem. But I just want to get some kind of report as to how the machines work, what problems we experience, and their information.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Just state your name, please.
Yep, Bill Lowe with ES&S, and I am the project manager from Mississippi. Excuse my appearance. I've been actually working in the warehouse this morning trying to get ready for the elections. Tomorrow we have, of course, the city of Jackson, but we also support the other jurisdictions, probably about 40 cities that will be supported tomorrow as well. So excuse my appearance. I've been working in the warehouse this morning, and we'll actually be working in the warehouse this afternoon. But was there a specific question as it related to the May 7th?
Well, I guess
you wanted to...
We understood the some, we had paper changes, right, with some of them. And if now this ballot was a lot smaller than you'll find maybe in 2 years. How would that affect the public when you have a larger ballot, more names, and trying to identify the names on the ballot to shading and those kind of things? With a larger ballot, there's going to be more problems. What do we do? How do you normally do it? I know you've done larger ballots before. What did y'all do?
Well, I mean, as it relates to the ballot, an 8.5 by 11 versus a 14-inch is I think what you're referring to. Most, I don't think the actual jamming of the ballot is necessarily associated with the length of the ballot per se. I think some of the issues that you run into with any scanner, any electronic scanner you have, whether it be when you insert the actual ballot into the scanner, you're just over the use of 100 scanners, you're going to have some jams. Of course, a lot of that is associated with the voter themselves when they fill the ballot out. What I've seen a lot in some of the demonstrations is if you take a ballot and you bend all the corners of that ballot, it doesn't really matter what scanner you put it in. It's just like trying to stick a dollar bill in a Coke machine. You're going to have potential jams with that ballot. So I don't know that the 8.5 by 11 versus 14 or 17-inch ballot has a big impact. Obviously, the longer the ballot, the more room for error on the ballot crinkling or getting corners bent. But there were some small lessons learned from this past May 7th election. One being when you insert the ballot into the scanner, whether it's not inserted all the way, or one of the things that I've seen is when you insert the ballot, sometimes the voter doesn't like to let go of the ballot, so it's trying to pull the ballot, and you're kind of holding on to the ballot. But hopefully, over the course of time with elections, the poll workers and the voters would get used to that process. of how the ballot's inserted, and it would be a smooth transition as far as the ballot being inserted into the
When you have,
scanner.
say, maybe 20 races, and some races you might have 5, 6 people. Now for older people, and maybe this is an issue that the county have to deal with, could we not have a table where they can sit down and fill out their ballot and then take it and insert it in the machine? Because the next big race with the governor and all that, it's going to be a lot of names.
Right.
And we want to make sure that people don't get tired of filling them out and just, I'm going to turn this in, versus some kind of way make it comfortable. And
Sure.
This is just food for thought.
No, it's a good
trying
question.
to prepare for the big election, because the municipal election is not that large in terms of how long it takes and everything else.
Right. Well, that's a good question. And, you know, with the precincts that we're working with in the city of Jackson, we have 2 options. Of course, you're limited in some of the precincts with the available space you have to work with and actual tables. But even with the city election, most of your precincts have tables set up and they have voting booth partitions, so you can sit down at a table. In fact, I would say majority of the precincts you would go to for this city election should have some partitions where you can sit down and vote. And then what we also have is it's called a Douglas booth, which you would stand up and vote, but those were sent out just in case the precincts didn't have tables to set up the partition. So it should be a mix of the 2 at the precinct, so there should be the opportunity for the voters to sit down and take their time and vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Any other question for Mr. Lowe?
I realized that it went pretty smooth. He did send out a lessons learned from the last election. He sent it to the county administrator. He also sent it to me, and I in turn send out a copy to each supervisor. And we're hoping that everything goes smooth. But I think that Mr. Stokes also has a very good point. I think that's one of the things that we did not include, and Frank can correct me if I'm wrong, in the RFP is to having specific tables or making sure that every precinct has a table for a person with limited mobility to be able to sit down. So it might be something that we might add.
We did 650 voting booths, and in that setup, all we'd have to do is simply have a table, correct?
Okay.
Well, to answer your question, there is an auto-mark table for the disabled voters to come up to and vote now.
Okay.
As it relates to the question that Supervisor Graham Stokes had, was the voting booths. I think what you would see is the Douglas booths and the partition set up at the precinct.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your attention to detail. Mr. Stokes?
I can't leave this issue without recognizing one of our colleagues is now in the race to become mayor of a city in this county. And, you know, I don't know what to say, Supervisor Fisher, but congratulations. And people watching the numbers and everything. And I think you led from the beginning to the end. So, you know, here.
Thank you very much. Didn't see you stand. Ms. Cochran, do you have something you want to say on this issue?
I just wanted to say that when the Hinds County Election Commission starts utilizing the voting machines, it is our plan for the election commissioners to go to each of the precincts, assess the space, capabilities, that type thing, merge some precincts, and all of this with the board's approval. So we will address those issues that you're speaking to see, we've got tables and chairs that we've utilized for years, the Hinds County Election Commission. That's what we plan to do, is to look into the future and see what we need to do to make it easier.
Okay. Thank you very much for that comment, and thank you. Mr. Stokes, go ahead.
Mr. President, on the whole item number 3, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to the Anderson family. So I'm a whole item number 3. On item number 4, I got a young man that's concerning Ms. B.B. Burns. Her son is here to speak with us. Mr. President, A few weeks ago, we had on the agenda about Hinds County Human Resource Agency. It's the only agency that we have to make sure that poverty and the people living in poverty might have an opportunity for help. And Ms. B.B. Burns was a young lady. Every time I see her, she would stop me and live without lights, gas, things that human beings need to live. And they said, well, what happened? Well, it's like so many stories in this country, not just in this city or county, where you're married and then the husband might leave. And a lot of times, your mother is trying to raise the children and trying to survive the best they can, and first it's the lights off, then the gas, and you just become overwhelmed. And that's what we had with this situation. I asked a son to come for some painting. Work is slow, and they haven't had any utilities. And it's hard to think about a citizen in this day and time without any lights, without any gas in the wintertime. But I'll let this young man explain what his mother's going through. Would you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Andy Taylor. I've lived in my residence for 20 years, and like Mr. Stokes said, we fell on hard times, and my mom fell ill. So I just would like to say I would like human resources to, help the needy and not the greedy, And she's an activist of the community. She looked out on everybody. As Mr. Stokes there as well as everybody. I just came to state my opinion on it, because it's cold winters and hot summers, like I said, you fell on hard times, and I just would like help,
Okay. Mr. President, before we leave on that, and I hope we can get Hinds County Human Resources help, and some say, well, how you stay in the house? Because in these inner city neighborhoods, if you leave this house, somebody's going to burn it down. And that's why you try your hardest. You don't have much, but even that'll be gone. And we call them firebugs and everything else. So they try to put plastic up over windows in the wintertime and summertime. And we got to get someone to help these citizens because, again, it can be anybody. It can be any of us. Sometimes you never know what's going to happen in life. It's not like they live their life with no utilities and didn't have. But again, sometimes, men walk away, and it's not always men, but, for whatever reason, and they forget that there's a family here, and these families suffer. So I hope that we can get Hinds County Human Resources, and that's why I keep bringing people, because it's the only agency we have to help, Mr. President. With somebody else that we can help, I try. But the only thing we got is Hinds County Human Resources, and some people know how to play the system, and they get help over and over again, and others get no help.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Stokes. Mr. Davis, would you please look into that and see if there's anything that the board can do or anything that the Hinds County Human Resources can do, and get us an address and make sure that each supervisor gets a copy of that particular address? Okay. Mr. Stokes, you may already have that address.
What I do at the meeting's over, I get him with Ms. Davis.
Okay. All right, continue, please.
Thank you. Mr. President, I placed on the agenda the youth detention and curfew because, and I had a chance to talk to Ms. Davis, once a curfew is enacted and the police officer takes a young person into custody, even though the first step is always to take them home. And a lot of this, and I hope Mr. Reverend Starr will come and guide us, because I might use some of the wrong terminology. But once they're in custody, Mr. President, then the Youth Act kind of kicks in. And even though you're taking them home at one point, the police just can't hold them. And that's why they needed a place to hold them. Because what you call them, some kind of offenders, status offender person. So I played this out on the agenda, trying to find a place that if we can find the curfew, get them reenacted in some jurisdiction, that we'll have a place where we can hold them till the parents can come get them, so we would not violate any state law. And I guess that's the major issue, making sure that no state law is violated. And once they're held, they then somewhat become property. They become in the custody of the county. And could you come up, Rev? I hadn't talked to you, didn't ask you to speak, but I was trying to make sure we could dot the I's and cross the T's to make sure we didn't do anything per se legal.
Thank you. Good morning, Supervisor. Good morning, Mr. President. As a statute, you cannot hold status offenders in a secure facility. You have to hold them in a non-secure facility, and that charge would be like a status offenders like we do our runaways. So you would have to have a separate holding place. Of course, there are some problems that we run into, because even if you enact an ordinance or pass it here, it's whether or not the city will follow through as well. But then you would need to have a place for them to go, sort of like a reporting center that we talked about some time back, where they can, it can be addressed as to their runaway, where parents can come pick them up. Or if you had to hold them over, we would have to have a facility like we do George Hope Home. But the cost there will be incurred upon by the county to have this place open 24 hours a day in order to maintain, which is something that you have to look at so we don't violate any statutes in doing so. Now, if you have a reporting center, they can go there and they can be there for a few hours and then release to the family after counseling and referring them to proper resources and seeing what the issues are. But as a whole, it's a matter of partnership with the other law enforcement agencies and having a facility where you can house status offenders. And in this case, you're talking about male and female. So you would actually have to have something that's big enough or that's separated by the gender as well.
Mr. President, it's early and we haven't really gotten to the budget, but I kind of want us to start thinking about it and talking about what and how we can do it, because I think the juvenile law, is it called the juvenile law?
Juvenile statutes.
The juvenile statute. Once they're in the custody, it directly goes to the county. And I see you shaking your head, Mr. President, and that's what I want to make sure that, because some thought that the city could do it. The city saying,
no, the county holds all juveniles.
That's what I was saying. So that's why I want to make sure we start.
Like I said, if you want us to work up something on that, we'd be glad to try to work up and show you what the numbers are with the Department of Safety and others as to what it's costing in other places.
Okay. Well, we just want to try to start thinking of what we need to do before we start into the budget process. We have not met with the city of Jackson or other jurisdictions right now, but we see a lot of young people on the street. They doing school hours in at night. A lot of them doing all kinds of things. We got to do something.
You may be able to get the truancy officers to on school time, but when school is out, there's not much the truancy officers can do.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. President, the only item I got left is item 6. Mr. Friedrich said that he approved everything for the property in front of Linear. He said, but we had to have this item on the agenda, given the Public Works Department the authority to demolish the house.
Okay. All right. So is that your motion?
Yes, sir. So
it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
You have gone involved in the procedures.
Yes, we're in the process of touching base with MDQ, City of Jackson, admins, water, gas, everything.
Okay. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. We'll continue our printed agenda by going to the county administrator, Ms. Carmondale.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item on the agenda is unclaimed bodies. However, they're not for consideration today. We've already discussed the update on the restoration of Pod C. There are no personnel items for your consideration.
Mr. President, under the personnel director, could I ask a question? Our handbook, the personnel handbook, could we get a copy of it? And I think Ms. Parker said she's working on amending it, making some changes, because it had been established. How long ago, Ms. Parker? Forever.